All right, it looks as though I am live streaming. I apologize for the late start today. Apparently I have really poor time management skills. All right. So yes, I decided that I was going to run some errands immediately before I was supposed to do this live streaming and failed to account for the weekend traffic and weekend lineups at the registers and so forth. So anyway, I am here. I'm here to answer all of your singing questions. I'm a little bit frazzled right now, but fix this up here. So as per usual, I don't really have anything planned. And yeah, I'm just here to answer your questions, so I will wait. But let me just get comfy here. All right. Okay. So yeah, so today is my monthly live stream. I do this on the second Sunday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm in the Boston area. And oh, hello, Linda. Nice to see you. Good. And Sweet Peach, hello. I'm all right. Like I said, a little frazzled just from my poor time management skills. But thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah, the floor is open. I'd love to hear you guys talking to you about, some of your goals and how you're staying motivated in the new year. And we're already, gosh, a month and a half in to the new year, and wondering how you're coming along with your own singing goals and things like that. I know I need to kind of just keep myself really focused on my own goals as far as my singing goals are concerned, as well as some other goals like finishing my book. So, but I would love to answer your questions today. So, oh, seems like I'm not sure if you can let me know if you guys got the notification. If you've clicked onto the bell icon, that would be great. Let me know that if you got the notification 30 minutes ago that I was going to be streaming live now. It's supposed to notify you guys, and I'm not sure if it really does that, but hopefully let you know that I was actually on right now. So, yeah, so as far as goals are concerned, I've been trying to get out for the YouTube channel. I've been trying to put out a lot more practical content and trying to keep some of the videos much shorter, down to like 2 to 3 minutes in length, because I want to be really respectful of your time. And I need to also manage my own time more effectively and just spend a little bit less time in the editing process. And the longer the videos, the longer it takes me to edit them. So I'm trying to just really give you one exercise, something very practical that you can do to help improve your singing, and then that I'm hoping will free me up to be able to return to writing my book. So that's one of my main goals right now. I'm trying to find a way to streamline this YouTube process. I'm also trying to spend a little bit more time on my Patreon channel because it's kind of hard to keep up with both. But it looks as though Linda has a question. So Linda, I do have a question. How do you personally recover your voice after, say, a night out, just from talking too much or simply over the overly loud music? Well, you're talking to somebody who is very non-social. So, I don't ever really honestly have that issue personally. But typically it's just, I think there are a couple things that you should do. I think you should be more proactive about that. I think that you are better off if you try to exercise good vocal practices while you're out. For example, not trying to shout to be heard over the ambient noise in the room. That's really important because then you will be more protective of your voice, and that will leave you with fewer issues the following day. It looks as though my streaming health is a little bit poor today. I apologize for that. So that being said, just try to really make sure that you're connecting well with your speaking voice, connecting with the breath. And I would say just keep the tone a little bit on the brighter side so that you can kind of tune your resonance a little bit more effectively to be heard over the ambient noise in the room. and that will help. And also conserve your voice a little bit when you're out. Don't be talking quite as much if you can't hear yourself. I've been like that at weddings where I've tried to strike up a conversation with somebody, or somebody has tried to chat with me and get to know me a little bit. And at one point, I remember I was at a cousin's wedding, and I said, "I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm a singer. I'm not going to do this." Like, I had to explain that it was just, I wasn't feeling comfortable just having to raise my voice like that. But that being said, the following day, how do you recover? Really just, hydrate and rest. Give yourself a vocal rest. And if you do feel as though, you maybe have a little bit of roughness in your voice, maybe if you're going to vocalize, excuse me, dry. If you're going to vocalize, just do some really light humming, something really easy that's going to help you get a good connection. Oh, speaking of connections, apparently mine's very poor today. I apologize for that. I hope that answers your question, but yeah, just, take good care of your voice beforehand so that you don't run into those issues. Oh gosh, we have a really bad connection. Oh, I don't know if I should continue. It says live stream offline. Live stream resumed. So sorry, people. I don't know how to fix this problem. Our internet connection should be good, but it's not. Oh dear. All right, Sweet Peach. I have always gotten my notifications. That's really good. I don't know if you get them a 30-minute ahead of time when I schedule the live stream. I don't always schedule it. Should a singer get a vocal coach? So I don't know if you're talking about like a vocal technique instructor, somebody to really walk you through a systematic approach in improving the functionality of your voice and teaching you techniques to be able to sing in a healthy, sustainable manner, or are you talking about somebody who's going to walk you through your repertoire and help you work on the more performance artistic aspects of it, walk you through phrasing and help you kind of polish that song and help you present it in a way that's really going to be more impactful artistically speaking. So in general, though, if you're talking about, some people use the two terms simultaneously, not simultaneously, synonymously. So, and in that case, actually, if you're thinking it's the same thing. Oh gosh, my stream is really bad today. I apologize. All right, so if you're thinking of them as being synonyms, then I would say yes. I think it's a really good idea, even if you can't afford ongoing lessons with a singing teacher, to at least go through a few lessons and have that teacher assess your vocal health and assess, where you're at right now, technically speaking, and then give you some sense of direction in terms of your training so that you can continue on. And then periodically go back to that teacher and just check in and see that, make sure that things are going well, and then that teacher can hopefully continue to guide you further along that path. So I would always say yes, I think it's a good idea just to make sure that you're applying techniques correctly. Santucci Pontarelli. Should a singer, oh, sorry, I just read your question, didn't I? Airy44, curious if you know much about the Estill model and your thoughts on the model. I know just a little bit. I'm familiar with Estill's research on belting in particular, but the method itself, I kind of just know sort of secondhand, just from what little I've read. So I don't feel like I have a really good firsthand knowledge or understanding of, what it's all about. So I don't think I can really give you a good assessment of the model. Linda, lol, I'm not overly social either, but sometimes you have to, and it was a wedding. Yeah, exactly. Weddings are the killers. It's like the DJs are always like blasting that music, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't need to be that loud. I find it so difficult to walk into even restaurants. Sometimes you walk into a restaurant and the music is so loud that you can't even hear the person across the table from you. And I just want to get out of there. It's just not a pleasant experience, or how good the food might be. It's just, to me, it's just not a pleasant experience when I feel like I have to shout to be heard. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, a bit of a choppy connection at times. Audio is smoother than visual. That's good. That's good to know. when it happens. So yeah, so the last time our stream was interrupted a few times as well, but it sounded as though the audio just kept going. So I think that's good. Audio takes a little less power, I guess, a little bit bandwidth. What are your favorite exercises to develop the male mix? I kind of use the same exercises actually for males and females. One of my favorite exercises is that ya 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 exercise. Ya ya ya, where you just try to keep a nice ya, bright kind of twangy sound. It's on a fifth 1 5 1, and I try to have my students maintain a similar amplitude loudness level, not allowing that higher note to get much louder, not really digging into the sound, and keeping it very speech like. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that was a really bad pitch, wasn't it? Not marked out. All right. So yeah. So then yeah, 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 and just kind of sliding up and keeping that feeling of everything being exactly the same, feeling like it's kind of resonating in the same way. And I find when I do that exercise, it sort of sets things up so that um, we're not we're not changing things so much as we get to the higher pitches. If we keep things very similar, I find that we actually achieve more of a mixed quality because we're keeping that speech likeness, we're keeping the loudness very similar and not really digging in and going into a full on belt or a yell quality. That's really one of my favorites. I just uploaded a video with Phil Mufarage from growthevoice.com. Actually, I think he's using just philmufarage.com, and I'm going to be posting that, if not later today, then tomorrow. And we talk actually specifically about the male voice, the male break, passaggio area. We talk about, the breath and a lot of the reasons why males struggle through the passaggio area. And I think it's going to be a really good video. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, just let me know what you think of that video when it comes in if you have any more questions. Sweet Peach, where should my larynx be when I sing high, and how do I keep it stable? So that's really interesting. I think that where your larynx should be really depends on your artistic goals and the style in which you sing. If you are a classical singer, generally speaking, that sort of region where the larynx wants to sit is going to be a little bit lower, with some flexibility for the different phonemes that we use, the different speech sounds in our language. Certain speech sounds have a slightly higher laryngeal posture than others, and so we have to allow some flexibility. But in general, we want to keep the larynx within a certain range. If you're singing in contemporary commercial styles and you're singing really high up in the range, the larynx is going to go up, and that's okay. The only thing that you don't want is that to be accompanied by a feeling of squeezing and pinching and constriction and strain. As long as the voice feels free, that high laryngeal position is not necessarily a bad thing, and it can actually assist our upper range singing. So don't be overly concerned about laryngeal height and trying to manipulate that. Really focus instead on voice quality. Focus on the vowel, making sure that you're singing an optimal vowel for the pitch so that your voice can operate efficiently, it can function freely. Make sure that you're really connecting with the breath. If you're not connecting with the breath, you're going to try to really deal with the breath kind of more up here if you're not connecting down here. And that's going to cause the larynx to kind of go higher than it should, and also for you to strain. So it's really all about balance, and don't be overly focused on, I see singers kind of doing this and, just making sure my larynx doesn't go up, and then they end up kind of sort of pressing it and forcing it down. So don't get caught in that trap. Don't think too much about it. Just make sure that you're connecting with the breath, you're singing the right vowel, and you're keeping, your resonance kind of consistent from note to note in your scale, and that should be good. Joey, hey Karyn, how should a person get back into singing after a total vocal rest? Also, are there any bad side effects to vocal rest? I was sick for 2 weeks, and my voice hasn't been the same since. I was also singing when I shouldn't. Should have been. I went to completely rest my voice for at least 3 days. What do you think? My talking voice is weak, and my singing seems easily fatigued with tension in my throat. That's actually something else that Phil and I talked about in that video and an interview. Um, so what often happens is when we're sick and when we try to sing or speak a lot while we're sick, we can develop sort of compensatory strategies for our voice use, and that can lead us to sort of these lingering effects, even though we might be fully recovered, fully recuperated from the illness itself. But then we can have these lingering technical problems. And I know also if you had any kind of swelling, whether it was swelling that was already there because of the illness or swelling that happened because you were trying to sing while being sick, that you could end up with just the swelling weighs down the vocal folds. And typically what happens is we have to push when there's that little bit of extra weight in our vocal folds, we have to push more breath. And then what can happen sometimes is after that swelling has gone, we continue to push that breath because now our body's kind of adjusted to a new way of connecting and supporting, we'll say. And so we have to be really mindful when we're sick of um, not misusing or abusing our voices, especially, and not really changing how we approach our singing. And if the illness that we have is requiring us to significantly change what we normally do, then that's a good sign that we should not be singing while sick. And as far as vocal rest is concerned, it really depends, I think, on the kind of injury that you're dealing with. Generally speaking, voice rest is kind of a last resort, and it's not something that most doctors, ENTs, speech pathologists would really recommend for most situations. There may be some that would recommend it for certain situations. So that being said, you've had some voice rest. I think at this point, you would just have to ease your way into singing again. Really don't expect that your voice will suddenly be able to go back to what you were doing before you got sick, because now it needs to recuperate further. It needs to be reminded of the coordination that it's used to using. And so in that case, yeah, just take it easy, ease into it, do some light vocalizations, some humming, lip rolls, tongue trills. Don't really push the boundaries of your technique at this point. Don't go to extremes in terms of loudness or pitch range. Just ease your way into it and just realize that it can take the voice a little bit more time to recover even after the illness is gone. Um, and so sometimes we get a little bit impatient. We're expecting, well, I feel fine now, so why is my voice not cooperating? So just give it a little bit of extra time, be patient with it, and hopefully that will help. Sorry for the long message. That is no problem at all. I know you're so limited to such a certain number of characters on these IMs. All right, Ansley. I'm trying to work through these cracks in my head voice on F5 and above. Any advice? Um, so I think, so you're saying head voice and F5. So F5 for most of us females is around our upper passaggio. It's usually somewhere around E flat to F sharp 5. And what tends to happen there is that there's this definite shift that most of us experience. And I find for me, mine is around E. And if I don't make anticipatory adjustments in the notes leading up to that, I find that my E and F are a little bit off. So I have to move into head voice. And a lot of that is really going into that inhale space. When you take that nice deep inhale low in the body, the vocal instrument just gets that really nice spaciousness, not anything exaggerated. It's not a full, I'm not yawning into the sound, right? It's just this, feels really open and free. And allowing that spaciousness to re-enter the picture if you've kind of lost it in the notes leading up to it is really important. Just going to the ooh, 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 ooh. I'm exaggerating how dark it is, right? But I want you to hear that inhale posture, right? And you need to feel that. And at that point, if you're in head voice, we're not talking like a mixed voice here, we're talking more like head voice. you have to allow some adjustment to the vowel. You have to allow the vowel to kind of, I would say, just go deeper into the vowel. You know, that ooh slide exercise. I've sung this in a couple of videos. Ooh. Ooh. I'm going ooh into the vowel, not going ooh. I'm not going into this really thin, bright kind of vowel. Ooh. And once you start getting that spaciousness, without really over darkening, I'm kind of going a little bit dark with this to demonstrate it, but once you get in that spaciousness, what will happen is the voice will kind of turn over and you'll move into a more comfortable head voice. So to me, it just sounds like you're not making the necessary adjustments in that passaggio region to be able to let the voice effectively move into the head register, which to me, again, I see as being more E5 and above. Right, hope that helps. Let's see. Michael asks, how could you start to get a routine for singing practice, and who do you know, or how, sorry, I'm assuming it's how do you know which exercises to do? That's a really good question. Routine is kind of a tricky one. Something I struggle with a lot just because my life is chaotic with 4 kids and they're home all day long because I homeschool and trying to build businesses and such. It's really hard to get into that daily discipline of practice. So you have to find what works for you. One of the big things I think is, again, building that discipline into your lifestyle, into your schedule, making sure that even if it's not a lot of time in the day, you set aside a little bit of time for vocalizing. And if you don't have a lot of time on a given day, less time than maybe the day before, streamline that practice. Do some easy vocalization for warm-ups. Or, you know, just go into singing songs that maybe are not really technically challenging, not extreme ranges again, not extreme like belting and overdrive type singing. But the big thing I think is finding something that gets your voice primed and ready to go, some sort of warm-up exercise, whatever that might be. I find that the time of the day makes a big difference for me. So I feel like if I wait until 6, 7, 8 p.m., usually while I'm preparing dinner, that my voice is just completely awake, it's primed, it's ready to go. And that saves me a lot of time on warming up. And so I might just do some really easy vocalization, or I might jump into a song that I know is pretty easy and it's not going to tax my voice too much and gets me ready to go. And then once you feel as though whatever that exercise is, you know, has set you up for your practice time, you know, then focus on whatever song it is that you're working on. If you're working on a specific technical skill, find an exercise that works effectively for you. I have a ton of exercises on this channel. There are a lot of other singing teachers out there who have recommended exercises that you can use. And you know, when it comes to telling you exactly what exercises, I know you're asking how do you know which exercises to use. That's where it becomes a little bit tricky, because if you're not a teacher and you don't really know necessarily what to hone in on, home in on, actually, that's bad grammar. So if you don't really know what it is your technical needs are to begin with, then you're not going to know which specific exercises you need to use. And if you're not kinesthetically aware and you haven't really developed your ear, I guess you can say, for how to recognize when something is functionally correct, we'll say, then you may struggle to make progress in your singing. So this is where I really feel, and I'm not trying to like push this all the time, but this is where I really feel as though singers need some guidance. They need a singing teacher to really help them along, even if it is just a short-term arrangement, even if it is just meeting with that singing teacher once a month, just for a checkup, and to really just make sure that they have the right tools in their tool belt, they have the right exercises, and they know how to sing those exercises, because that's really more important than any exercise out there. Is actually, it doesn't matter what you're singing as long as you're singing it with correct technique, you're applying correct technique to it. So I hope that answers the question. I know it's kind of sort of a vague answer because I can't really give you a specific one, but I think just setting aside a time that is convenient for you, that makes sense for you, is half the battle, I find, for a lot of singers when it comes to practice time. And then, finding some way again to warm up your voice, get it primed and ready to go for whatever it is that you want to sing. I know for me, depending on what I'm singing, whether it's like my own music, which is kind of pop rock, or musical theater, I have certain exercises that help set up that sound for me, because musical theater has a different sound from what I use for pop or rock. And so that's the other thing I do too, to streamline my practice times, is I find I have certain exercises that help me set up that sound for whatever it is I'm preparing to sing, and that just gets me all ready to go to work on that song. Let's see. Terry, do you have any tips for keeping your voice on top of the mix in loud classic rock band? I'm assuming you're also talking high, because a lot of the classic rock stuff is like really, really high. I don't know what you mean exactly by staying on top of the mix in loud classic rock band. That sounds more like you're talking about the mix levels in terms of the speakers and what you're hearing in the room. In that case, really just connecting, making sure that you're really paying attention to the breath and really building a really secure breath management strategy, a really effective one, and a lot of twang. I say a lot of twang just because it's protective of the voice, and it really helps to amplify the sound without a lot of effort. It's working smarter, not harder. But of course, the added challenge is that when you're singing in classic rock bands, they have certain frequencies. The individual instruments have certain frequencies that your voice, your twangy voice, might actually be competing with, which can cause you to kind of push and strain. So, I guess the best, I can't talk today. The best advice I think that I would give you there is to really find a way of tuning your resonance so that it kind of sits somewhere in between the resonance, the frequencies that you're hearing from the other instruments, and find a good mix in terms of being able to hear yourself, whether that means using in-ear monitors, which are really great. They really kind of keep things, they really help you focus more on the sound. And I find, just making sure that whatever sound is in the mix in those monitors, for me, like I like to be able to hear myself and an acoustic guitar, whether there's drums and bass and electric guitar and whatever it might be there. I try to keep as few instruments out of the mix as possible so I can hear more of myself. I don't know if that helps at all, but that's my own way of approaching it. Matt, hello. I know I need to get back to you. You sent me a message on Facebook, and I do have to get back to you. Joey, thank you for your response. Very helpful. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. Nicholas, hi Karyn. When pedagogues talk about keeping the space behind the nose active, especially in the NG sound, is that an imagery or something to actually feel? That's a really good question. There's differing opinions. There are differing opinions about how much emphasis, I guess, we should place on that sort of nasopharyngeal area, which is, I think, probably what you're talking about, right? That space kind of behind the nose, the nasopharynx. The NG sound to me is just this feeling of resonance kind of being in that space, but that doesn't mean that we should necessarily direct the resonance up into that space. I'm not a fan of, placement per se. We will definitely register certain sensations in certain areas depending on how our vocal tract is shaped. But I think, just, let me go back to active. Yeah, so some teachers will actually teach you to open up the nasal port a little bit to try to get that sound. I know some really good singing teachers who say, yeah, it's all about the nose, just get things through the nose. I'm not a fan of that particular approach or that sound. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's ineffective for everybody. But I'm definitely I'm definitely more a fan of, you know, just twang and keeping things kind of bright to get that brilliance. And yes, I use the NG a fair bit in vocal training. So yeah, I think if you train on the NG, I think what happens over time is that you start to get this sense of the resonance kind of being sort of up and over as opposed to kind of down here. And it's not so much an imagery, but it's a sensation. And I think maybe that's what they're referring to. I don't, because I don't talk a lot about placement. I do talk about, you know, where I feel things, you know, when I'm singing in the mix, I feel it like right there. Everything feels like it's right up against that alveolar ridge. And that, to me, when I get that, it feels really free. And so I'm assuming that some singers, you know, when they start to feel that behind the nasopharynx or in that nasopharynx area, you know, they feel like that's the kind of balance that they want to achieve. But record yourself and see if, you know, when you achieve that, record yourself and see if that's actually the sound that you're aiming for. Listen kind of as objectively as you can to that sound and find out, you know, is it nasalized? Is it thin? Because sometimes when you really have a sense of resonance back there, it's actually nasalized and thin. It's not really carrying as well as it could otherwise. Your resonance might not be as balanced. So, I don't know. That's kind of the long and short of it. Mostly the long. Let's see. Matt, I'm trying to sing the song "Who I Am" from Les Mis. Is it who? Oh, who am I? Apparently I'm dyslexic. Who am I? That one, right? From Les Mis. And I know I can't hit the note at the end. You know, 2, 4, 6, 0, 1, right? When he goes out. Yeah. How can I hit a different note and still sound good? You could probably stay on the same note. 2, 4, 6, 0, 1, and stay on that there. Rather than, yeah, trying to go up. It may seem less dramatic, but every now and then you'll actually hear a singer do just that, where they kind of sit on the same note. You could always drop, but then that could be kind of anticlimactic. But yeah, so I would stick with that now. I'd rather that you did that and stayed on the same pitch than try to force the voice to go up before it's ready to. Try to sing pitches, you know, at a certain interval above that when you're not really ready to. Matt, very interesting. Good. Oh, and Sweet Peach, you're so welcome. All right, well, this is moving along today. I'm not as behind. It's a smaller group than we usually have. All right, so, you know, I would love to keep this video on the shorter side of this live stream. When it gets posted as a video, it can be kind of long for people to watch after the fact. So I will give you another minute, and if anybody else has any questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, we'll have an early end to this, and we'll meet up again next month. Yeah, I have time to practice. So Matt, do you mean like time to practice to get that note? The original note that's in the music? You know, that would be, if there's time to practice, that's great, but don't, let's say you have a month before the performance or whatever it might be, don't necessarily set the goal for yourself, you know, I absolutely must sing that pitch. You know, you want to make sure that your focus is on developing a solid, reliable technique, a healthy technique, not on training to that note, if that makes sense. If you're training to that note, what's going to happen is you're going to sort of try to hit that note at all costs. And that may get you to the point where you're kind of, you can hit the note, but it may not be a healthy way of hitting the note. So you want to make sure that if you're going to go for it, it's because your technique is secure enough to be able to sing that note in a healthy way. That helps. I have time in between now and the performance. Right, so yeah, I mean, again, keep working on your vocal development, but don't put that kind of pressure on yourself that you're going to sing that high note at all costs. If it feels good, if it feels secure, if it sounds good leading up to the performance, then by all means just go for it, own the note. But if it doesn't feel good, if it's just not, if it's not reliable, if it's like from day to day you're not 100% sure if you're going to get that note sounding good, then personally, I would encourage you to go the safe route, just so that you don't have that anxiety in your performance. Oh my goodness, that high note, that high note, am I going to be able to sing it? So just, yeah, just be patient with your voice. Let it keep developing. Yeah, if I can hit it, I can. If not, oh well. Exactly, good. I think that's a good attitude to have. Linda, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if you're heading out now, but good. This has been good. This has been a lot shorter than the other live streams. So I think we're gonna, oh, see, I thought of belting being a good idea, but I don't know. You know, actually, if you listen to like Colm Wilkinson sing that song, there's definitely a belt in there, but he's also using a partly classical closed voice setup that's just kind of on the bright side. So I, you know, gunk, sorry about that. So yeah, I wouldn't full on open belt that note per se, because it is kind of a high. I don't even know what note it is, but I know it's on the higher side. It's in that tenor range. So yeah, I would, if you haven't already been learning how to acoustically close off your voice and to build in that sort of classical mixed voice, I would A. Is that like A4? That's like the Canadian A. You're not Canadian, are you? I don't even know where you're from, actually. I always forget to ask you guys where you're from. I'll do that at the beginning of next live stream. All right, so things are a little bit low right now, so I'm going to call it a day. Let my family make some noise again. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I will see you next week. No more like May. Oh, okay. All right. Take care. And if you have missed this live stream, this being here right now, this will be on there will be a recorded version of this on the channel, and feel free to leave your comments or questions in the comment section after that. And Jean Bradley is here. Hello from California. Oh, and Matt, you said you're from New York. Wow. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon. All right.